What's up, everybody? Welcome to Sherdog.com. You are witnessing the trenches, our weekly live chat. Of course, we just had the UFC 235 pre-fight press conference wrap. So sorry for the delay, but hey, we had to get this work in. So once again, I mean, it's always a pleasure. It's always an honor. It's perhaps one of the greatest pleasures of life to introduce the absolutely incredible, the remarkable, the spectacular Captain Credential himself, Mr. Jason Burgos. Jason, how are you feeling today, my brother?
I'm looking to see if there's somebody behind me with this remarkable. It can't be me. It must. Who the fuck is back there? I'm well. I'm well. Good to be back as always. I did not watch the presser, so please fill me in. It seemed like people liked it from what a little bit I saw on Twitter. So please fill me in.
Yeah. Let's thank.
So what was it for 235?
Yeah, for 235. So
who was there? Woodley, Usman, everybody?
Yeah, Woodley, Usman, Jones, Smith, Lawler, Askren, and the surprise was Cody Garbrandt and Pedro Munoz. Yeah. But let's thank Tyron Woodley and Kamaru Usman for making that press conference just nothing but pure, beautiful entertainment.
Really?
Yeah, like, so as much as we've trashed that matchup as opposed to them going with Colby Covington for the welterweight title, like, man, I think they just shut everybody up. Like those two, you remember how horrible their Twitter interactions have been where they would jaw jack with each other? Well, in person, it's something lost in translation when you typing on the keyboard on that phone, man. It's something lost in translation, man, because they were getting in each other's business, and it was very enjoyable. Yeah. So Woodley even kept saying that Kamaru Usman sound like LL Cool J, and he pulls out. He's like, man, the hell with this. I'm gonna pull out my chapstick for you, and he starts putting on chapstick. Like it was funny, man. Like I'm telling you, man, people they deny. Fortunately, and this is amazing. Right? The UFC actually acknowledged how great Tyron Woodley is with his intro. They introduced him as one of the greatest welterweights of all time.
When they need you, and when they need you to make that money, they love you. But when it's all done, it's like, eh.
Yeah, but I mean that. But even when they need the money with Tyron, they always kind of downplayed him in the promos. But now they boosted him up. I was very surprised by that. Yeah, and Woodley delivered, man, with the spotlight on him. Kind of par for course with John Jones and Anthony Smith. That was pretty typical. Pedro Munoz,
they're back and forth. Like after the Jones fight on the Fox Sports post show was awkward as fuck. So I can only imagine that this was kind of meh.
Man, it was all right. It was just kind of what you
expect. Anthony Smith's not a talker.
Yeah, he's really not. Like he's not the guy who's gonna say a bunch of stuff to get you to notice him. He's just gonna try to knock your head off, and that's that. And John Jones, he's good at the trash talk. A lot of times, it's better when he is got somebody playing along with him. And Smith is not the guy to play along with you with the trash talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
what about Askren Lawler? Because I can imagine that's heavily one-sided. Because Lawler is another. He's like Anthony Smith from like the early 2000s. Not a talker.
Lawler said about 4 words the whole time.
Oh my god!
He said about, but that's kind of what you expect from Lawler. I don't know if you've ever interviewed him. I never interviewed him. I was attending an event where I had the chance to interview him, and I was like, nah. Why bother?
Like, it's not one of those bucket list things. You know?
Yeah, it's like he's not really going to say anything. So, and he really said next to nothing. I mean, at least like with Pedro Munoz and Cody Garbrandt, you know, that was definitely the surprise of the presser, their attendance, because I don't initially remember that being advertised that they would be there. So when they were there, you know, it's cool to see them there. Cody has some very interesting pants. Very interesting pants. And Cody Garbrandt, he's a fashionable dude. Like he's always dressed very nicely. So I don't know what the pants were, but hey, what do I know? But they got along so well. Like they were so friendly that Jones even joked at one point that like because their friendly interaction, the pay-per-view sales are going to do terrible. So it was definitely some good moments there. But I know we started late, and I know you being on the East Coast, I know you ain't trying to be at this all night. So we're going to jump into some questions right off the bat. We got to start with the man himself, the myth, the legend. Europe won with the great question. He says, is bad blood brewing between the Nevada State Athletic Commission and the UFC? First, the John Jones steroid debacle, and now the McGregor-Khabib fallout. which seems to have left everyone angry. Do you think this quarrel will escalate and have genuine consequences for the UFC's business in Nevada, or will the almighty dollar triumph supreme?
I don't think it'll have any business. I don't think it'll have any issues and consequences between the two. Though it is interesting because I was reading an article, they was talking about the John Jones fallout from the State Athletic Commission hearing, and they made a good point that how he was not tested in that time he was suspended, which was very odd for USADA not to do for a guy that's had 2 suspensions. And USADA is pretty much like a representative on the the doping end for the UFC, so they kind of are the UFC. So they didn't do that. They weren't very forthcoming, I believe. Also, when he tested positive for his pulsing, substance. So yeah, I think they're definitely, they seem to be getting a little uncomfortable with the practices of USADA, hence the practices of the UFC and their doping. But I don't think they'll have any problem because in the end, the UFC does more for drug testing and MMA than most organizations, so at least that's a good thing for them. And they bring them a whole bunch of business. I don't think any'd be a problem. They're trying to swing their influence around a little bit and maybe trying to get the UFC to go in a direction that's probably better for everybody. But I have no concerns about there being issues. Money will make everything happy and go round.
Yeah, I agree with that. Money is going to solve all the problems, and yeah, money is definitely a big topic with the NAC with that last meeting. So they now what I will say is the one area where it could have been backlash, I think more so where Nevada and California intersect, that California was not notified of some of the abnormal tests that Nevada was made aware of. Which is why they apparently wanted to have this meeting before 232 took place, and which prompted everything to go to California. So now whether or not the science is correct, I'm not, once again, I'm not going to jump out there with that. I think they did a very good job of trying to explain it. The Athletic Commission, for once, and normally I'll be the first one to trash them. I think they did an excellent job, at least trying to understand what the science was saying, trying to ask the right questions, and trying to make a logical decision and not just go with blanket, okay, steroids, let's throw it away. They at least tried to take an approach that showed a respect for the facts and respect for the nuances involved in the situation, and the fact that quite frankly nobody can really give a good explanation of everything. So I think they did a very good job on that. But when you have the UFC not revealing very, very pertinent details to athletic commissions when it becomes a licensing issue intertwined with doping, I think that's an issue. That's a problem. That right there creates the illusion of deception at the very least. So when you are looking like you're willfully deceiving these governing bodies, I mean, don't be surprised if there's backlash in some way, shape, or form. Now, if that backlash gets smoothed over because somebody got handed a stack of cash, and so be it. But that's a stack of cash you could have kept if you kept things on the up and up. So that's kind of where I fall on that. But I do think the commission in this case, in the Jones case, should be commended for at least trying to take a more nuanced approach to what was going on. And unlike what they did with Nick Diaz, when he brought in an actual legal team with science, they actually listened to the science. They listened to experts and tried to figure things out and see what was good and what wasn't. So I think they deserve some credit for that.
I think one of the more interesting stories from that, and I think you might have tweeted about it too, I did as well, was that them hinting at possible fines and a level of censorship for trash talk in a fight with the whole McGregor thing. Like, that's interesting. In that state, with the history it has, I mean, I guess maybe this is, all right, we've had our final show, we're trying to clean things up, but that is that's a weird line that they're crossing that is, that made me uncomfortable a little bit. What about you?
That's a line that they're just not going to cross. That's just stupid.
Yeah. I don't know why they brought it up.
So for everything that I'll say positive about the commission for that hearing, I definitely will slam it on them for the negative. And that is number one. They are not going to punish anybody for their speech leading up to a fight. It's ridiculous. It's like they just had, 2 weeks ago, Adrian Bronner and Manny Pacquiao fighting. And Bronner said some horrible things. Horrible things in the build up to that fight. Some blatantly racist stuff to Manny Pacquiao. We've heard Floyd Mayweather say blatantly racist stuff to Manny Pacquiao as well. We've seen so much trash talk and so many unpleasant things said back and forth. And I mean, as much as we can get turned off by like the I guess the morals involved with the situation or what they're saying, at the same time, people pay for that shit. Like, so if Nevada is going to sit there and once again they want to grandstand, they want to put on a show, and they're going to say, "Hey, you guys, you knocked this language off and it's wrong, and we're gonna fine you and we're gonna penalize." First of all, the Constitution ain't gonna have that free speech there, buddy. Second of all, if you have a problem with all the trash talk, all the money that you got from 229, give it back. Give all that money back. And I know if you saw that economic report that was put out about the impact of UFC 229 on the Las Vegas area, where it was like $86 million brought into their economy. Wow. So all that trash talk, and then you're gonna stop that from happening? Fuck out of here. Let's be real.
How are they going to monitor that anyway? What you're going to watch every press conference, every interview, read every interview to see what every fighter said? Because you can't just look at certain fighters and not look at other because they're just going to point to someone else that they did worse. Like, how are you going to monitor? You're going to watch every video for every event that's in it. Like, it's so stupid.
Yeah, like you can't you can't do anything about it. Nope. And then where's the line of, oh, this is acceptable, but this isn't. Yeah, like this is pure stupidity. This was the commission just wanting to hear their own voice. That's it. Like, that's just dumb. So for every good thing they did, as far as looking at John Jones's case and trying to come to some understanding and not having a knee-jerk reaction and opening the doors for a more varied approach to anti-doping, that's beautiful. But of course, the commission got a commission. You got to get the dumb shit in. So let's bring the dumb shit in. Oh, they'll knock off the foul speech. Now, now thing is, we just saw. Well, you didn't watch it, but I just watched this press conference with Kamaru Usman and Tyron Woodley going back and forth with each other. Granted, nothing foul was said. They didn't say anything, but they weren't being nice to one another. Is Nevada going to come and smack somebody on the wrist for that? You know, slap somebody's hand and say, "Bad boy, I'm gonna take some of your money now." No. When extra butts get in those seats, you're gonna take all that extra revenue, and the state's gonna be fat and happy. So let's knock that all the way the fuck off. This is a joke. It's a damn joke. So that's one of those things where they would have been better off just shutting the fuck up. Like you remember when that one commission hearing where I think it was a John Jones hearing. And there was an older guy in there who I don't know what the hell he was trying to ask because he just rambled on forever. And he says something about Jones being a role model and African-American kids looking up to him. It was just like, okay, you're just saying this to get your own voice heard. Like there's no point in this. Like, this is the same sort of thing. There's no point in this. You just want to hear yourselves talk. Please shut up with the stupidity. Just rule on things that you actually have a control over, that you actually will follow through on. You will not follow through on anybody's speech. Shut the fuck up. Thank you. Oh my goodness. When I saw that, I was like, that is the emptiest threat I've ever heard in my life. What an empty, trash ass threat. You will do nothing. Man, Conor McGregor can go in there and bang all your wives probably. And you let them fight in the state because all that money is a beautiful thing. Like let's be real about it. Money is the motivator here, and the trash talk brings money. Yep. You will not turn down them greenbacks. Don't even pretend. And
I can't imagine that, a department like that is heavily funded from the state. They're making all of their revenue off of the events themselves, so they're really beholden to the events. So them to just try to swing their balls around now, it's just so ridiculous. Just stop it, just please.
Yeah, and in fact, let's we're gonna segue this because my next thing I want to say segues right into the next question, and this is from Roberto P. He says, if Khabib sits out for a full year like he says he will, what should the UFC do with the lightweight belt? So first, before we go into what the UFC should do with that, do you think Khabib does sit out that full year?
He's an interesting guy. I mean, he seems like a guy that might, what he says he'll follow through with. I don't know. I don't see it. I don't know if he's going to do the PSA, which would be funny as all hell. But a whole year, I don't think so. I mean, he's got 9 months, so he wouldn't have to do much more if he wanted to hold his word and 3 more months. But when was the 230 that event 232?
232 was December 29th.
So I mean, he mentioned November in the Garden, which would be close to a year.
You're talking 229. You mean?
Yeah, 229. Sorry.
Yeah, that was October 4th or something like that.
So maybe I mean, since he's already mentioning the year in Madison Square Garden specifically, I guess it's possible. He's like he seems like a guy that's really strong into his principles and into his sort of code of life. So maybe he might do it and just show some solidarity with his homies and sit out with them or some shit like that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's possible, but also, like you said about the PSA, like you didn't think he would do it. According to Dana at the presser, Khabib has agreed to do the PSA.
Oh.
So if he's agreed to do the PSA, then he will enjoy the lighter suspension most likely. I don't see him doing that unless he's going to take advantage of that 3-month period being shaved off the suspension. So, but Khabib is a guy who seems very, very much about his principles. I mean, the entire reason why this brawl took place was because of his principles. Was because he didn't like what was said, and damn it, the bell rung, but hey, I'm still mad.
I see Dylan Dance's fucking face.
It's like, whoa, you said something too? Well, let me just hop off this cage and stomp on your head. So he very, very clearly has an attachment to his principles, and he was very valiant in his statements against the commission in the immediate aftermath of that brawl and with his teammates. One of them, I think, is his brother or his cousin being suspended as well for longer, which, by the way, their suspensions make perfect sense to be longer because they were not in the cage originally. They didn't belong there. So Ali's thing about, this is crazy. McGregor gets fined $50,000 and this guy, he gets fined $500,000. Simple. McGregor didn't hop over the cage and stomp on somebody in Khabib's corner. It's just very simple. I don't think that really. That honestly doesn't deserve an intelligent response because Ali's smarter than that.
Yeah, he's just being a manager, and he like sometimes some of the stuff he says is kind of crazy, but and a lot of levels I get it. It's just that manager speak, that's just how managers are. No matter what their client does, they're always going to be backing them, supporting them 1,000%. They're going to say everything that makes them favorable. So I mean, in the end, he's just doing his job, and in the end, he gets a lot of fighters paid a lot of money. So.
Yeah, I mean, hey, if I were to hang up the MMA media member hat and I were to do something in the entertainment realm, hey Ali, holla at your boy. you seem to get people paid, you know what I'm saying? Holla at your boy. Yeah. All right, cool. That's what's up. But yeah, like Ali is definitely one of the more flamboyant guys who aren't competing in the cage. So I kind of expect him to say stuff like that. But let's be real. Like Conor got off lighter because Conor didn't really do anything.
I don't even get the suspension. I mean, if you want to suspend him because you're going back to the whole trash talk thing and send a message, I can get that. But the man was straight up attacked in the cage after the fight. I didn't get that in the first place, and if I didn't get it anyway. But whatever. Yeah,
and I believe Dylan Dennis is still suspended. His hearing is going to be in February. What the hell did Dylan Dennis do?
Yeah,
Dylan Dennis was standing there in the corner. Even if he was talking trash to Khabib, they talk trash to each other. So what?
And how many drunk people are yelling nonsense in an MMA crowd at that point anyway?
I mean, all Dylan Dennis did was stand there as Khabib flew toward him. And I think I'll have to rewatch a clip that I saw, but I think Dylan connected with a nice clean shot on Khabib when he finally hit the ground. He stepped back and clocked him with a right hand. But hey, that's what happens if you jump at somebody.
Exactly.
But hey, what do I know? I'm just a clown in a Black Panther / Wu-Tang shirt. What do I know? Man, but yeah, so as far as what the UFC should do with the lightweight title, I think this is a case where interim title, man. I hate to say it. I really hate to say it.
This is the best news possible for Dustin Poirier because he's in line, and this really could finally get him a title shot. Interim albeit, but a title shot finally.
Right, and you know what? And if that does happen, if there is a Dustin Poirier interim title fight in the works, can we have nobody but Tony Ferguson be the opposite in that cage, please? I mean, that's it. Like, if Tony Ferguson is not involved with whatever iteration of next lightweight title fight there is, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not buying it. Like, it just doesn't sound right to me. But here's another interesting thing to think about because of course the UFC is going to make a lot more money with Conor McGregor being a champion. This has opened up the door to put a belt on Conor's waist again. And I said this in the immediate aftermath of that brawl in the media room of 229, did a little post-fight audio with my guys Dennis and Casper from Submission Radio, and we went back and forth about this. And I said, hey, if there's any opportunity that the UFC can take to put a belt on Conor's waist, Khabib just open the door for it.
I got a question for you though, and it's interesting because without a doubt, yeah, championships make a bigger difference in MMA bouts, stuff like that. And that's always, we'll say, for example, a big thing in wrestling. But wrestling, is different than all fake. But now that we've had interim title bouts and we've had things watered down, this is kind of why I would like to see Conor versus Donald Cerrone. That I'd like to see if the fight did very well. If it still did well, maybe that changes their mindset where the UFC starts to go away from, oh, we need Conor to be in title fights, to just, we need Conor. Because maybe if the numbers do well, he doesn't need to be in the title picture, and they don't need to kind of circumvent guys that have earned and have the merit to get a title shot, and they just put on fights with him. And if he earns it, he wins 3 in a row, he gets it, unless he's fighting, he wants himself. But do you think maybe he, since he's been kind of that trend, that fighter that transcends the sport a little bit, maybe he can be the guy that transcends needing a title to still be a big fight?
I mean, he definitely can, but I think they also have a tendency to ignore the fact that sometimes big fights can just sell themselves, and they have to put a belt on it.
Yep.
So for instance, the first thing that comes to mind off the top of my head is when Luke Rockhold stepped in for Robert Whittaker at short notice to fight Yoel Romero, or Yoel Romero stepped in for Whittaker to fight Luke Rockhold. I mean, and they had to put an interim tag on that. They just felt like they had to, but that was a fight that was good enough. It was good enough already to be a main event, be a 5-rounder. Fine, maybe pay the guys a little more to make up for what they would make if it were a championship fight. Compensate them on the financial aspect, because that's kind of what really matters to a lot of the fighters.
Yeah.
But why did you have to put an interim on that? Like, it wasn't necessary. The same thing with Anthony Pettis and Max Holloway. It wasn't necessary to put an interim belt on the line for that. Sometimes good fights are just good fights.
Yeah.
So despite the fact that Conor McGregor has 2 very, very well-selling pay-per-views, I think number 2 and number 3 on the UFC's all-time list, that were non-title fights against Nate Diaz, they have a tradition of just slapping a belt on something because it looks shiny on the poster, and maybe some guy who doesn't know any better is going to buy it just because of that.
Yeah, I think this is the one sport that can be different, and they should be the one to try to lead the way in doing that, and that just putting on big fights, this is the kind of sport, because people know you get the bang for the buck. And I think they go by that boxing model where it's a main event and a so-so undercard. So to really add value to the main event that everybody's pretty much only cares about, you put a title. But in MMA, especially with the UFC, you have such a depth-filled card. If you just put a great fight on top with a good card, I think this is a sport that can make money in that way, that titles aren't necessarily needed to make $1 million pay-per-view buys.
Yeah, I agree, man. I just think that but the thing is, I don't think the UFC is quite sold on that idea.
Yeah, not yet.
Jay also brought up a very good point in our chat right now, that Anderson Silva and Nick Diaz sold 650,000 buys, and that was a non-title fight. It was a good fight.
Jay, if you could look at it, what about Anderson and Forrest? Because that was another
But the main event of UFC 101, the main event of that though was BJ Penn versus Kenny Florian. Right. So that was a title fight at the top of that card. But yeah, man, I do think that there's something to what you're saying. It's just that the UFC doesn't quite see it that way a lot of times. Yeah. So yeah, there's that, man. So let's see, what is the next question? I kind of lost where my place in the chat. So can you tell me what the next question is?
Number 3. Poll question: Did the Nevada State Athletic Commission do the right thing in issuing a temporary license to Jon Jones so he could compete at UFC 235 in Las Vegas? 22% say yes, 78% say no.
I'm not surprised by that. I'm definitely not surprised by that result. I mean, I for once disagree with the majority in the poll. I think they did the right thing in issuing him a conditional license, and they're going to do additional testing. So if the thing is, if the system is corrupt, which I am not going to dispute anybody who believes the system is corrupt, that I think there's more than enough evidence to support such a theory. But if the system is corrupt, all these extra tests won't mean anything. Yeah. If the system is corrupt, he was going to get licensed. He was going to fight anyway. So at least they're putting on the appearance. At least it's trying. But I get the sense that there is, even if Jon Jones is cheating, even if he is cheating and he's microdosing or he's doing something, he's using some designer drug or he's calculating things wrong, whatever the case may be, it appears to be that the Athletic Commission and VADA and all these separate agencies, I'm not going to count USADA in this, but all these separate agencies, they seem to be at least trying to come to some understanding to where they can form a good explanation. Yeah. And the science is trying to be applied to the logic and the reasoning in their rulings. So that right there, I think, is commendable. That is a step in the right direction. It wasn't all that long ago that Sean Shirk and Hermes Franca were both suspended for a positive test in the same lightweight title fight. And Shirk had his title stripped, and he had a whole lot of problems going through, all because, it was supposedly a tainted supplement that he was willing to go through all these battery of tests to prove. So like, we don't want to go so far to where everybody's just getting shot down. Yoel Romero, Tim Means also comes to mind. Guys who were proven to have tainted supplements, proven. Like, they took those supplements and tested them, and was proven that those guys did not do what the findings seem to point at least not intentionally. And I think you need to have some sort of gray area. It needs to be something that allows for error, and you figure this out. And that is a step in the right direction. I think it's unfortunate that a controversial figure like Jon Jones is the catalyst for this, because we definitely can raise a lot of questions about his drug history. Let's keep in mind that he had, according to some experts, some very suspicious T/E ratios leading up to the first Daniel Cormier fight. Right. And that was pre-USADA, so a lot of people forget about that.
Yeah, right.
So there's also the story of him supposedly hiding under the cage and peeing something while the drug testers came in to Jackson Winklejohn. Like, they could have happened to a guy who doesn't draw public ire as much, but it is important that it's happening. So I think we should be thankful for that in some strange way. Hopefully it's not abused. Hopefully we're not being hoodwinked again, but it is what it is, man. I think that it's better than just going black and white in this issue.
Yeah, I agree with you too, and disagree with the majority of the people that voted, because it almost feels like a negotiated result, in that the perfect result to a negotiation is kind of almost a thing where no one's happy, in that, Jon Jones gets licensed, but it's not for a long time. I'm sure the UFC wanted him to get a license, everything's good to go, but no, it's only a year. So I'm sure the commission was unsure about licensing him. They did it. It was for only a year. They are unsure of how Nevada, USADA's testing are. They want a full battery of more in-depth tests going forward, because they don't trust it. So it's almost a thing like, it's like let's just test it out. Let's go through all the things, because also if they said no, we're not going to license you, it just opens up a whole ball of wax of issues. Oh, he's not going to be in Nevada. What do other states do? A lot of states follow Nevada. California's going to let him. It just becomes an issue. So let's see. You guys are telling us that this is not an issue. It's a situation that's circumstantial to him. Then let's play it out. We'll try one more time in the sea. You know, and I think it's fair. You know, and of course they make themselves happy because they're gonna get money from the next fight that he's gonna be fighting for them. So, yeah, I agree. It's kind of the some people were happy, some people everybody's happy but unhappy kind of response and result in it with coming up with this. So I think it was probably the best decision for everybody involved.
Yeah, I mean, when we look at what happened with 232, I think that the flaw with that mainly is one, that California did not know about the abnormal findings ahead of time when they agreed to have this event moved into their jurisdiction.
I thought they did know, but that's why they made him do the VADA testing.
Well, the VADA testing was a condition of his relicensing in California.
But they forced him to do it before.
But it was a suggestion then.
Yeah.
And then once the event moved over to California, then they say, okay, you have to do the VADA test. But they were not aware of some of the abnormal findings. The ones that were in, I think, August and September, they were not aware of. They were only made aware of the December one, and they presented some science there. Okay. So when Jeff Novitzky had his scrum after one of the weigh-ins, it was the official weigh-ins. When Jeff Novitzky had a scrum, he revealed that they did not know about all of the abnormal findings. So there's a flaw in that, and then also just moving the entire event and all the chaos that caused. Now, it'll be one thing if this happened with like a month and a half ahead of the event, and then you can move things, and then things can be done right. That makes sense to me. But as long as they don't go through something drastic like that adversely affects a lot of people who have nothing to do with whatever's going on with John Jones and oral turinabol or whatever other PEDs could be involved with M3 metabolites and whatever else, then I think they're trying to go about it to where it's not guilty until proven innocent.
Right.
It would be really unfair for basic mistakes or misunderstanding with the science, not quite getting what's going on, to cause a guy to suffer penalty for the same thing twice, or to simply just miss time off from earning an income. Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. All right. So let's move along to the next question here. This is from Kung Fu Z. Another regular. Shout out to Kung Fu Z. Dana just announced that Holly Holm versus Aspen Ladd is canceled, but no details. What fight would you like to see replace it on the pay-per-view? Zabit versus Stevens, OSP versus Serkinov, Sanchez versus Gall. What do you think?
I mean, outside of Sanchez versus Gall, I'm surprised those first two are not even on the main card, especially Zabit. I mean, the grassroots popular opinion and love for Zabit that's been developing for like the last year and change it's fascinating. A lot of people just fucking love this dude. But that's an amazing fight. And OSP versus Misha Serkinov is a really, really good fight, especially if it goes to the grounds. If I had to choose, I'd like to see a Zabit. You know, I feel like OSP versus Misha is a fight between two very good fighters, but we kind of know what they are. Zabit and Stevens is fascinating. That Stevens is one of the very best litmus tests you can get at 145 pounds. So Zabit, a lot of people think he's for real. Maybe he can be that guy down the line because he's got good striking. He's got the fantastic grappling because of the Dagestani grappling and wrestling and all the stuff he's done coming up. So that's the fight I would like to see more of the three. I mean, Diego Sanchez and Gall may actually be the most entertaining, but Zabit getting that Stevens heathen litmus test fascinates me.
You know what? I would say for business purposes, I say put OSP and Misha Serkinov on the pay-per-view because you want to showcase Zabit versus Stevens. I think you want to get some free eyeballs on Zabit that. I think that'll be very important because he's a name that we know in our bubble, but I think once the general public gets to see what this guy is capable of and his fight style and his look, even because he's a wild looking dude he's like, you know, he can do all these crazy spin kicks and he's had this unusual style of grappling and everything. I think that is visually very appealing, and I think if you put him in front of as many eyeballs as possible, you might get some interest for his next fight. Now, I think Diego Sanchez and Mickey Gall belong on the free card, like the featured prelim bout, because it is going to be guaranteed violence. And that could be a perfect segue into the pay-per-view to get people to go ahead and drop that $65. So OSP versus Misha Serkinov, as action-packed as that fight could possibly be, I think that's the commodity that's a little more questionable. You're not quite sure what you're going to get because it is a very strong possibility that fight is very awkward and could just be just some strange, not even pleasurable domination to watch, or something very weird can happen.
Yeah,
that may not bode well for you trying to plop down your money and convincing those last people on the fringe to buy. So that's why you put that on the pay-per-view main card. If that's over there, you already got the money. So we're just going to see whatever weirdness could happen from that fight. Every time, it seems like almost every time OSP fights, something strange is going to happen. Yeah. So yeah, that's my take on that one. So our next one is from Yo Jimbo.
There you go. There you
pronouncing
go.
that right, baby. Yo Jimbo, what up, baby? All right. So Jake Hager, also known as Jack Swagger, had an impressive win at Bellator 214, albeit against not great competition. What can we realistically expect from a soon-to-be 37-year-old Hager moving forward? What say you, Jason?
I mean, one, I wouldn't go as far as calling it impressive. I'd call it what I expected to happen. I figured he would get a submission. I don't know if we said it here. I think I said
you said
too.
It. Yeah, you said
I figured maybe the second round, something like that. I figured that's what was going to happen. I mean, despite the brewing love affair, bromance between Anthony and Mr. Kaiser, he was tailor-made to be taken down and submitted or ground and pounded by Hager. I don't know. That's the one division that you can be long in the tooth, so to speak, and have some success. I mean, the craziest thing is, and it disappoints me in a way, is Bobby Lashley when he went back to WWE recently. I really would have liked to see him continue to his MMA career because he really had developed a nice niche as a really solid heavyweight with some potential. I'm not saying he could be a heavyweight champion in UFC, but maybe in Bellator. He would have been an interesting guy to have added to that Grand Prix and see who he could have fought, or has been an alternate, or be a guy down the line. So, and Bobby Lashley, similar thing, much later in life, pro wrestler. And I think Lashley, if you can check that, what's his age? I think he's already in his 40s. And if you can check when he started his career, and he had, I think, a less impressive credentialed wrestling background. Like he wrestled in, I think it was like the military, like they have like their own colleges and stuff like that. I'm guessing in the lines of like Navy University, Air Force, something like that. So it was like a different kind of like national championship he won. It wasn't an NCAA Division I. It was something different. But Hager has a much better, more impressive NCAA Division I pedigree. So if you're going to start off with that MMA, especially in the heavyweight division where there aren't a lot of great wrestlers, aren't a lot of guys with great cardio, that's always a good start. But we all know it's the striking that has to come along. So in Bellator, it's probably the right place for him. Bobby Lashley's, Jake could tell us, he's 42, started in 2008 and went 15-2. Still under contract with Bellator and won all 5 fights in Bellator within 2 rounds. Yeah, I mean, he was good and he had a lot, some potential. But Hager, let's see. I mean, Bellator is the right place for him. Bellator, PFL, these are the right place. UFC is not the right place for him. Maybe he becomes a guy that could be UFC level, but he maybe similar to Bobby Lashley, started late. Maybe he can be a guy that with the right matchmaking, which Bellator do, can be a solid gatekeeper with an upside to be a championship contender within the next 3 years.
Well, first off, I will not stand for any JW Kaiser slander. I will not stand for it. That man is a gentleman. JW Kaiser is a good guy. He's a fine gentleman. He is a pleasant person, and I like him. All right. And JW, if you're listening right now, you come to LA, we're having a beer. All right, we're having a beer. But yes, he was brought in to lose, and that was very apparent. I will say one thing that I found very impressive about Hager's submission win was that he was able to get that arm triangle without breaking the half guard. To stay in that to get that, because that means his squeeze is crazy.
That's true, but that's also good if I just feel like Kaiser doesn't know how to defend it and isn't used to defending it. So again,
hey, watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. Watch your mouth. JW Kaiser is a saint.
Like there was other element, like his ground and pound at times, like it was okay. Those other submission opportunities. I thought it was a good solid performance.
Yeah, I mean, it was good. Like, it definitely didn't set the world on fire. But all I'm saying is, like, his squeeze has to be very, very good in order to lock in that submission while still in half guard. So I give him credit for that. But still, I mean, yeah, that's what was really supposed to happen, despite my pick on my emotions. and Hager's a likable guy too.
And that was the only one you got wrong on the card too, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think that was the only one I got wrong. Oh no, well, except Pico. Everybody got Pico wrong. Everybody got Pico wrong. But yeah, man, I really think that Hager, with that wrestling background, he might be able to do something. I mean, Bellator doesn't have the deepest heavyweight division. For crying out loud, a middleweight made it to the semifinals of the heavyweight Grand Prix. So.
I would disagree with you in that I feel that is probably one of their better divisions after 45 and 70. It's still better than lightweight and still better than 205 and 185 because they got Fedor, you got Bader, you got Mir, you got Karatanov, you got Roy Nelson, you got Krokop, you got Cheick Kongo, you got Minikov, Javi Ayala. And now you got him. That's like 10 solid heavyweights. I mean, this is far better than their division was 2 years ago.
Yeah, that's true. I'll give you that. But it's still, heavyweight in general is like a weak field compared to lightweight and welterweight and the more average size guy divisions. So I mean, there's hope for him to do something. I mean, I don't expect him to challenge for a title. Don't expect him to be even in a title eliminator. But I think maybe he can see a top 10 opponent before he calls it a career. And we will be absolutely just foul to not mention that our esteemed producer Jay did in fact pick Corrales to win. So I would have felt wrong if we just left that little nugget out. I think he's the only person for Sherdog for the pick'ems that got that fight right. So
did you get something from my article, Jay? So you read my article, Corrales, and you just felt the energy of okay and said, "Oh, I got to pick him." Is that? Just give me that. Just tell me it was that.
Yeah, man. So shout out to Jay for that, man. Great picks on that. All right, so let's see where is our next question. This is an interesting one. From Sage Van Zandt.
Oh man, what a love child that would be! Like the most beautiful child you've ever seen in your life.
The most sculpted, and blonde.
Yes.
All right, who would you like to see in an MMA version of the Royal Rumble? I'm not even sure how to. The first thing that comes to mind with this question is that there is some version of this. I think it's in Russia actually. A lot of crazy shit go down in Russia.
Is it that one, the team one?
There was like it was like a team one, and it was like all these guys. It was like 6 guys at one time fighting 6 other guys. But what happens is whichever team loses a guy first, that team's going to get wiped out because then everybody just gets jumped. So maybe if it was like a like just one against all sort of scenario and all against one, I guess. But man, that would be a tremendous shit show. I would watch. Don't get me wrong, I'd watch. Fuck, I'll buy it, right? Shit, shut up and take my money. But I don't know how that would play out. I mean, the thing is, I would like to see more so the guys who can sustain more punishment doing something like this. Because, of course, if you get a guy who has a more questionable chin, he's going to get slept because somebody's going to hit him from the side. It's going to be a wrap. But you got to have that guy, that vintage era, like Vanderlei style fighter. They can eat like a tremendous amount of punishment and then still just blitz you upside the head. You need a whole bunch of guys like that. So whichever knuckleheads you can think of, so get your Donald Cerrones, you know what I'm saying? Get your Robbie Lawlers, get your another guy, just get your vintage era Vanderlei Silvas, your Chris Liebens. You need guys of that nature who just love to fight and they love getting hit and they love to hit people back, because this be too chaotic to have the guys who are all technique and all, like a guy like Anderson Silva, for instance. I don't think he'd do well in something like that because it's all about deception and smooth technique. You know, Wonderboy Thompson may not do well in something like that. Jay, great suggestion. Justin Gaethje, a fond lover of violence, a guy who loves nothing more than to feel his bones crush into another man's skull. Like, he would be perfect for something like this. But yeah, like, thank God it's not an actual reality, because can you imagine just the bloodlust and just ugliness? And man, this, like, you would have one MMA Royal Rumble and then like that'd be it, man. That's your career.
Yeah.
So, hey, man, did you watch the Royal Rumble?
Of course.
Oh yeah, because see, I'm just into New Japan and PWG as of yet. I got invited over Esther and Casey's place to watch Royal Rumble, and I was supposed to go, but my illness kind of came back to me, and I just had to veg out. I was so trash, Joe. I should have let them know. That was trash. I talked to them since, so I guess it's all good. Man, that was trash.
I mean, if it was me, I mean, and when it comes to Royal Rumble, large human beings always do well. They don't necessarily always win, but they do well. So if it's something like this where it isn't, scripted and choreographed, and it's just melees of mayhem, I would always lean towards guys that can just brute strength to just grab your ass and just throw you the fuck over the ropes. So I would imagine a Derek Lewis would be fantastic in a Royal Rumble. A Tuivasa, a madman like that. Just large human beings would probably do well. The larger, the better. Who are just some large human beings in the world of Czech Congo? That's a large, big, tremendous grab. You just get the fuck out.
Just throw you out. Throw you out the ring or something. But then also you can't really have the wrestlers in this too much though. I think if your game is all about top control and top pressure, like all you're gonna do is get hit upside the back of the head.
Yep.
Like that's all that's gonna happen. So it's just like in a street fight where they say like you want to avoid going to the ground. It's gonna be the same thing. It's gonna be street rules. You take somebody down, his homie gonna hit you in the back of the head. Not a good look. So the stand-up strikers are the guys who I think are going to be the best at this, and maybe in the clinch grapplers, and the stand-up strikers will do the best in the MMA version of the Royal Rumble. So because we're going to cut it a little bit short today because we got to a late start, and Captain Credential Jason Burgos himself he's tired. He's been being great all day, and he's fatigued.
Don't want to be up on that.
It takes a lot of energy to be as great as Jason.
It does. I mean, it does. I don't want to brag. I'm a little. See, I just got tired right there. It takes a lot out of you. Right there.
All right, so we'll wrap it up with the final question of the evening here. Who you got? UFC on ESPN +2. Man, that's a mouthful to say. UFC Fortaleza. I think it's in Fortaleza, Brazil.
Yeah.
Johnny Walker versus Justin Ledet. Who you got?
I remember Johnny Walker. I remember him. I know I watched Justin Ledet. Who did he fight in his last fight? Do you remember who he beat?
Off the top of my head, I cannot remember who he beat. I remember more his haircut than anything else.
Oh, I'll never forget that.
Yeah, so let me look that up real quick.
Because I remember watching, I was like, "Oh, this guy's definitely gonna lose," and then he ended up winning. This haircut's gonna fucking lose. No way.
Yeah, I mean that is a haircut right there. That is also one of the worst haircuts in MMA.
So the people watching, James Lynch has a video interview with Ledet this week on Sherdog.com, so people can also see that too. Ledet lost in a complete blow. So he.
Oh yeah, this is wild. Okay. Yeah, he lost to Alexander Rocky.
20. Oh my god.
Yeah, but man, I think this is all Johnny Walker.
Yeah, I would agree.
Johnny Walker has been sensational in what he's done since he's kind of gotten the public eye here. It's hard to pick against him. I mean, and it's going to be very difficult to avoid the whiskey puns as I am tweeting during the fight. So expect the corniness is coming. What you going to do?
Yeah, and I agree with you.
All right, so next question. Oliveira versus David Tamer. Who you got?
I gotta look up David because his name is familiar to me too, but I'm drawing a blank on who he fought recently too.
And so sorry to interrupt, man, but Tamer has had a nice little streak of decision wins. I mean, he's 8-1 right now. Yeah, he's got some Lando Venata, Drakkar Klose, and Nick Lentz in his last three. And he had a couple knockouts before then, but those three names are very notable. And this is the thing, man. With Charles Oliveira going to do some Charles Oliveira shit. Something weird is going to happen. Oliveira looked too good in his last fight and made weight and everything for something not to go wrong this time. So just on that alone, man, give me David Tamer. On top of that too, he's got the skill set to do it. So I think Tamer's going to pull away with that one.
And Oliveira's career has been a career of, big highs and then fallbacks, because he had the great run when he went to 145, and then he loses to Max Holloway. No shame in that. Then he comes back to the win, loses 2 in a row. Comes back with a win, all submissions, of course. Loses to Paul Felder, TKO. And now he's got 3 more. The way his career works out, this seems perfectly fit to have a letdown kind of moment. But then again, I mean, he's just filthy. And who's to say, there are certain fighters that it just takes them a long time to mature. What's nuts? This guy's number 30 years old. He's going to be 30 in October. He's only 29. He might be like a Dos Anjos that, yeah, he's still primarily a grappler, but he may have figured out how to use it in a fight, to use his striking, to set up his grappling, and just be filthy. I mean, the man has a record for most submissions in the UFC now, 17 out of his 25 wins in submission. He might just be on one of those kind of special roles. So it's a tough one. Tamer's still a younger fighter, only 8-1, but he has very good, impressive wins. I mean, I feel you on picking Tamer, especially on those 3 wins. I'm gonna go Oliveira. I'm gonna say Oliveira's on that unique run, and maybe he's getting himself into contention. I'm gonna pick Oliveira.
All right, you got faith in Oliveira. That's what's up, man. Yeah. Hey, but I'm not mad at that pick at all. Oliveira, Think about Oliveira. He can at any point he could just snatch a limb off, and you have no idea what happened to you. Yeah. So
even if he's getting beat up and losing, he has that ability to do one of those kind of things and get a submission. That's how gifted he is as a grappler. Yeah,
he's like the equivalent of a one-shot kill striker.
Yeah,
as a submission artist. Yep. So I think that's something to watch out for. So Damian Maia versus Lyman Good. Who you got?
I mean, this feels like that time where it's like, okay, Maia's on the downside of the career. He's had his chance. He's reached the pinnacle. He got his shot one more time, and he's falling back. Is he lost 2 or 3 in a row now?
I believe 2.
Because he lost to Usman, he lost to Covington, he lost.
Oh, so it must be 3. So it must be 3. Let me double check
a win in between there. I can't.
Yeah, remember. It was 3. Yeah, Woodley, Covington, and Usman. Yep. 3.
No, that's no shame. He lost to the 3 best welterweights in the division, so it's no shame to that. I know Lyman Good came off a win. I think he's at 232. I was there, and I was in the press room, and while he was getting interviewed, I think he had a good win.
Yeah, Ben Saunders he knocked out.
Yeah, you know what? I'm gonna pick. Yeah, lost 3. Yeah, I'm gonna pick Maia in that Lyman Good is a good fighter. He was very good in Bellator, but whenever he came to a certain level, it seemed like he would fall back a little bit. And he couldn't break through. This may be that breakthrough, and this is, I think, what they're hoping for against a name that's on the decline, well-aged. But I feel like in a time where we've had some recent wins by older guys, they're showing some life. Damian Maia will continue this little show of life, and this will be one of his last last UFC wins. And I think Lyman Good is just that guy that he's gonna just comes up short enough against the elites and the tops of the division, and this will be another instance of that against Damian Maia.
I'm gonna have to go on the other side with there. I'm gonna go with Lyman Good. And I think it feels like the end of Damian Maia as an elite welterweight. Yeah, so that's really what I'm feeling. And I think what's going to happen. I think Lyman Good gets past him. I think he wins a decision, but then can't really capitalize on that momentum. I think once he gets to the elite guys at welterweight, then he gets stopped. That's my feeling on this. I mean, Damian Maia is 41, I believe. So 41-year-old guy who has a limited skill set, although he's incredible at his jiu-jitsu. His striking is obviously a liability. I mean, he has a lot of trouble just putting hands on people. Lyman Good is not the guy that you kind of don't have striking credentials against. I think Good he'll be able to stay on his feet enough. I think his takedown defense should be good enough to keep him upright. He should win the decision on this one.
All right.
So next one, Aldo versus Renato Moicano. What you got?
I was thinking about this. This is funny, Trent. Now that I'm picking Charles Oliveira, Damian Maia, picking these established guys, I feel I'm gonna pick the established guy again. Could definitely end up wrong. He's already made it official that this is gonna be his last year. He wants to fight 3 more times this year. 2019 should be his last year. I just feel Moicano, the hype on him is legitimate for real, but I think being in Brazil, beating Jose Aldo, going in there with a very good striker like Jeremy Stevens. I mean, what's his losses? His career entire losses are Holloway twice, McGregor, and like his first fight or something like that of his career, some shit like that. So when he loses to the elite of strikers. Moicano's game, at least when he started in the UFC, got into UFC, was grappling. He's gotten striking much better now for sure, and he's dangerous. But I don't think his striking skill set is refined enough to go in there with a guy like Jose Aldo. And Jose Aldo is hard as hell to take down. So I think like this is one of those fights where he may have his moments. Moicano may really look good, do some interesting things, but he's can be too wild and sloppy for my liking to go against a guy like Jose Aldo who wants to finish his career strong, wants to do it in Brazil, wants to have those special moments left. And he's not an old guy. He's not like he's 35, 36. So I think he's still physically able to really put on some good performances like he did against Stevens. And I think he gets the win and derails the Moicano hype train, at least for now.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you on that one. I think Aldo is going to pull off the win here, but I think it's mainly because Moicano has a tendency of despite the fact that he's got a stellar record with Brian Ortega being the only person that's been able to beat him. He has a way of just letting these fights kind of linger on more than they should. He has a tendency to get in some back and forth with guys that he really should just annihilate. I think he's skilled enough to annihilate a lot of dudes. And Aldo is not the guy that you really can give him chances to hurt you and survive. And I think that's going to be the key. If Moicano fights like he has been fighting, to where like the Calvin Kattar fight was a bit closer than it probably should have been. The Ortega fight was back and forth. And I mean, I had him winning that until the submission. And the Jeremy Stevens fight also, like there are times where Moicano just lets guys be in it longer than they really should. Aldo is not the one. Yeah. He's not the one for that. I think Aldo puts a hurting on him. I believe. I think he should get a finish in this one as well. But I think in the long run, this is a fight that will make Moicano better. All right. So I believe that will do it for our host of questions here. Oh, we got one more? Oh,
the main event.
The main event. Oh, that's right. I hear Aldo. I'm like, oh, main event. Boom. All right. So Marlon Moraes and Rafael Assunção 2. Who you got?
I'm gonna pick Moraes. I feel because Assunção won. That's his only loss so far in the UFC. Correct?
Yes.
Yeah. I just feel like. I almost feel bad for Assunção now. I almost feel like he should have gotten a title shot again or gotten a title shot in the first place by now, and that he just this is where he begins to maybe an age slow down a little bit. Moraes is right in the middle of his prime. After a stumble in his debut, which I think that's what it was, his debut against Assunção in the UFC. He's really got on a roll. His confidence that he had going into the company is back. He's rolling. Assunção is going to have some trouble getting him down, and I think he's going to use that striking. And I feel like I could see like a third round stoppage win for Moraes to even the score between those two.
I'm so torn on this one. Because
it's a good fight.
It's an incredible fight. And their first fight was extremely close. Their first fight was a split decision win for Assunção. Assunção is also the guy who can always kind of neutralize whatever you can do. Like nobody ever really looks good fighting him.
Yes.
I think that the Dillashaw rematch, probably the only exception that comes to mind, but nobody ever really looks that impressive against him because he just has a way of just stifling you.
Yeah, he's very competent everywhere. Like, of course, he's a great grappler, but even his striking, while not flashy, is very competent. You cannot say, but he's good. He knows how to strike and well and be you have to respect his ability.
Yeah, and that's. But also Marlon Moraes seemed to have gotten better since that last fight.
Yes.
And knocking out Aljamain Sterling, then knocking out Jimmy Rivera. Very, very, very impressive feats. I mean, those two knockouts were ridiculously stunning against two guys who are extraordinarily elite fighters. So I'm gonna lean toward Moraes on this one because I do think that second crack at it with a guy who is really kind of coming into his own right now is going to prove to be too much. It's just unfortunate for Sunsao because this is a guy who should have had his title shot in 2014.
Yes.
You know, and we're still talking about Rafael Sunsao on the outside of the title picture while the champion was going down to fight at 125. Like that really is a shame. And unfortunately, I think this fight is going to solidify him being one of the most screwed over guys in UFC history.
I agree.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think that's going to do it for this week's edition of The Trenches. Mr. Burgos, Captain Credential, the elite, the extraordinary Captain Credential, please tell the people what you have coming for Sherdog.com.
For Sherdog, I got some pretty good stuff. Did an interview in the last week with Anthony, not AK, that's actually a legal nickname, Anthony Rocco Martin from the UFC welterweight. Talked to him about some stuff. I put up a clip of some of that interview recently on my Twitter and my Instagram. If you're talking about the ranking system, there's another clip I got coming out next day or so of him talking about the pros and cons of dating another fighter and his relationship with Kayla Harrison, which is pretty cool and funny. But that full audio interview should be on Sherdog. I'm hoping the next few days or whatever. Also talked to Dean Thomas, which was really interesting because not only does he, of course, he's been a longtime manager at Tyron Woodley, which is fitting now for this press conference that came out. So we talked, of course, Usman. We talked Covington fight not happening. We talked about what we've talked about a lot on the show, feeling is Usman a better and tougher opponent than Covington. Dean Thomas answered that for me. He's also the manager for Greg Hardy. So we talked a bit about the Greg Hardy fight, managing Greg Hardy, the things surrounding him. Also asked him about what is Amanda Nunes' place in the sport in terms of historically, because he's a good friend with her. He also part-time coaches her as well. Got that. Also, the big one, hopefully tomorrow is coming out. Got to interview Patricio Pitbull Ferrer. Him, for people that were watching the broadcast of UFC Bellator 214, him and Chandler had a back and forth on social media. Chandler is finally saying, we're going to fight after Pitbull's been calling on him for a couple of years. He went to MMA Weekly, had an interview talking about it. So I got to talk to Pitbull. The Pitbull will be biting back in his response and rebuttal to Michael Chandler. And there's fire in this stuff as only Pitbull can do. So look for both of those. As always, Cheap Seats Chat on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, so definitely go check those articles, especially that Pitbull article. If you want to see that smoke, that smoke, go ahead. Inhale that article, please. Yes. That sounds gorgeous. Can't wait to read it. So I have Ask Ant coming out. Should be out tomorrow. I'm going to write that as soon as we're done with the live chat here. Didn't do it last week. I was too sick. I just left.
I mean, you were busy. You got a lot going on anyway. So nobody could be karate combat. UFC. I mean, going on.
I was very busy, man. And I wrote the Karate Combat article. I don't know if it's in the queue. I submitted. I don't know if it's coming out or not. I don't know. Maybe it was ass crack. I don't know. So we'll see. We'll see. But other than that, Good, Bad, and Ugly for UFC Fortaleza should be out Sunday. Aside from that, you can catch my snarky remarks and whatever else I feel like talking about on Twitter at Ant Walker MMA. That's Ant Walker MMA. And yes, I say whatever I feel like saying on my Twitter.
The snark has been well appreciated on Twitter by the minions, the trolls of the MMA universe. They are loving the snark.
Oh, I love y'all too, trolls. All right. So for Jason Burgos, I'm Anthony Walker. Tune in to Sherdog.com for next week's edition of The Trenches. Stay on Sherdog.com for coverage of UFC Fortaleza and all the incredible news in the world of beating people while you're half naked in a cage. So you know what you got to do now.
It's subscribe to the channel.
And like.
That's what
subscribe and like. Yes,
comment,
do that.
Like, share.
Yes, do that. Yeah, spread the love. Shit, please. All right. So aside from that, you know what you got to do. You got to stay positive. You got to stay beautiful. You got to stay gorgeous. Stay intelligent. Stay sharp. Stay witty. And most of all, stay sexy. I'll see you when I see you.
Any of that stuff.
Man, they can't do none of that shit. Y'all stay sexy out there. Peace.